Just because you don't see progress doesn't mean God isn't moving. Pause your fears and step into the quiet place where trust is born, not in what you can see, but in who God is. The silence that greets you before the sun rises, the stillness filled with heavy unanswered thoughts, is not a void, it is a sacred sanctuary. God's whisper is clear today. I meet you within the delay, not after it. Many hearts have echoed your ache, wondering, Lord, have you forgotten me in this waiting season? But you are not alone, and your voice is not lost. In the stillness, divine power is quietly shaping the very answer you long for. What feels like a pause may be heaven's quiet rhythm, aligning details too deep for your mind to grasp. Isaiah 40 promises that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. That is not poetic exaggeration, it is spiritual reality. Strength doesn't precede the waiting, it grows within it. Meditation becomes your invitation into that holy exchange where your soul exhales and God recalibrates your inner pace. You don't need to manufacture progress today. You don't need to climb, perform, or prove anything. You are invited to rest beneath the shelter of the Most High, where peace is not earned, it is given. Psalm 91 calls us not to sprint, but to dwell in the secret place. Dwelling is not passivity, it is a courageous act of trust. It's believing that unseen does not mean untrue. You may feel like every door is shut and every dream delayed, but as Pope Leo XIV once reflected, the delays of God are the quiet breath before creation. The silence you're experiencing isn't absence, it's a holy hush. You are not late, you are exactly where heaven has appointed you to be. Even in this moment of stillness, God is working. The delay is not denial, it is design. And when you choose to believe that, your heart begins to rest again. Your soul remembers that it's not forgotten. God is crafting something you cannot yet see, and it is good. The weariness you carry is not weakness. It's the evidence that you've been holding too much for too long. You don't need to carry it alone anymore. Let go. Let the shepherd of Psalm 23 lead you beside still waters. He restores your soul not by forcing breakthrough, but by walking you toward it, gently, patiently, surely. Today's prayer is not about asking for more. It is about aligning with what already is. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." That's not metaphor, it's your promise. Bring him your frustrations, your invisible battles, your silent cries. In stillness, his voice becomes clearer. In rest, his pace becomes yours. Trust stops being a concept and becomes a rhythm. As you step into the day ahead, let your confidence rest not in speed, but in surrender. Let Psalm 91 wrap your heart like a living truth. Replace anxious urgency with peace. Even your delay is in divine hands. The breakthrough you long for is born in mornings like this, where trust deepens and faith becomes stronger than fear. In what area of your life is it hardest to trust God's timing right now? How does your body react to delay? Tense, anxious, or exhausted? What might you surrender today? What could it feel like to dwell, rather than strive, in God's presence for the next 10 minutes? I will wait on the Lord, and my strength will be renewed. I dwell in the secret place of the Most High and abide under his shadow. God is not late. He is preparing something beyond my vision. God, I trust you, even in the delay. Let my waiting become a prayer for someone else today. When waiting stretches into weeks, months, or even years, the silence of unanswered prayers can feel like standing before an unmovable wall. You've prayed, you've hoped, you've believed, but nothing shifts. Anxiety whispers cruel doubts. Maybe God has forgotten you. Maybe his promise doesn't apply to your story. But hear this gentle truth today. The waiting is not abandonment, it's preparation. God never constructs walls to isolate you. He allows them at times to reveal something deeper within, something sacred. Beneath the frustration and hidden ache, divine power is at work, strengthening your spirit. refining your trust, and building a foundation that fast answers could never form. Psalm 27 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart." Those words are not empty. They are a lifeline for the weary soul, calling you to discover strength hidden in silent places. Just like seeds planted underground, your prayers are not lost. They are taking root in God's perfect time. Even when you feel pressed against the unyielding surface of delay, remember this: God sees you. You are not out of His sight. Every quiet moment, every ache you cannot express, is being held in the palm of His hand. Pope Leo XIV once reflected that waiting is not a test but a sacred forming, a silent place where character deepens and the heart of heaven is written upon yours. Your delay is not wasted, it's not a mistake, it is an invitation to lean into divine timing and discover what trust really means. This is the holy hush before creation, the preparation for something so intricately beautiful it requires silence to be shaped. Your prayers are not forgotten. They are being built into something lasting. God is crafting a path even when you cannot see it. This morning, let your anxiety unwind into stillness. The shepherd of Psalm 23 is guiding you gently, not rushing your steps, but walking beside you through each valley and every unknown. This delay is an invitation to slow down, to breathe, to lean into meditation where God's voice becomes clearer and His peace steadies your heart. Meditation is not empty silence, it is sacred stillness, where "be still and know that I am God" becomes more than words. It becomes your reality. Your waiting is not passive, it is deeply active, as you choose to trust instead of fear, to rest instead of race, to listen instead of strive. God is not waiting for your perfection, only your surrender. Speak softly today, "Lord, I don't see the way, but I believe you are making one. Even in delay, I trust your timing." As your day unfolds, resist the urge to force progress. Let your confidence rest in surrender, not speed. The wall you face today may not vanish, but its shadow will shrink as you remember this: trust is not grown in comfort, but in challenge. It blossoms in silence, in uncertainty, in perseverance. Under His wings you are sheltered, even in seasons of delay. Let this truth wrap around you like a blanket of peace. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are being prepared for a breakthrough that no shortcut could ever deliver. Your trust is building something eternal. What walls of delay feel most overwhelming in your life today? How might God be deepening your trust through your current waiting season? What small step can you take today to lean more fully into trusting God's perfect timing? I will wait upon the Lord. My heart will be strong. God is with me in the waiting. I rest securely under His wings. I choose trust over anxiety, peace over impatience. God, I trust you, even when I can't see the way. Let my trust today become an encouragement to others who feel the weight of delay. Divine power often feels distant because it flows beneath the surface, unseen but unstoppable. When life refuses to shift and answers seem far away, it's tempting to assume God is silent or absent. Yet His strength is already moving before you see a single change. Trust isn't built on sudden miracles. It's formed in the quiet conviction that every hidden moment is woven into His greater design. Like a potter shaping clay with slow intention, God molds your heart during the pauses. Isaiah 40:31 reminds us that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. It's not painless waiting. It's deepening trust born in meditation on His steady faithfulness. God doesn't rush. He refines. He prepares. In the background of your prayer, a sacred architecture is unfolding, every delay forming something deeper within you that quick answers never could. When you surrender control and lean not on your own understanding, as Proverbs 3:5 urges, you open your heart to divine logistics that exceed earthly timelines. Romans 8:28 assures us that God works all things together for good, even the seasons of silence. The obstacle before you may look permanent, but embedded in it is a secret doorway known only to God. Pope Leo XIV wrote that divine delay is not denial, but the holy pause before provision. Just as seeds germinate in darkness and rivers carve paths in silence, so too does your soul align with God's unhurried rhythm in the stillness. Meditation is not an escape, it is your return to God's timing, a spiritual rest that softens the anxious edges of your heart. In this posture, trust begins to replace the tension. The shepherd who leads you through every valley isn't in a hurry. He moves with deliberate care, guiding you in peace, even when clarity feels far off. Your impatience is not a flaw, it's the sign that your faith is ready to go deeper. We often reach for quick resolutions, but the greater miracle is the transformation happening beneath what we can see. Think of a canyon carved over centuries, not by force, but by the persistence of water shaping stone. Your daily surrender, your prayers, and even your tears are carving new paths in your spirit. Even Jesus sought solitude before his most powerful acts, reminding us that divine power often begins in hidden places. Don't despise the silence. It is sacred space where God is forming strength you didn't know you needed. Today, choose to see the delay not as a setback, but as a sacred setup. Under his wings you are sheltered. Within his timing you are secure. Trust is not about knowing when, it's about believing in who. Where have you sensed God's hidden work in your life, even when you didn't see results? How can you practice meditation today to align with his unhurried pace? What would it look like to fully release control and trust that all things are working for your good? Even in silence, God is moving all things together for my good. I trust not in my own understanding, but in the Lord's perfect timing. Under his wings I find refuge. In his waiting I find strength. God, I trust your timing, even when I can't see the road. Let this quiet faith light the way for others still waiting in the dark. When your soul aches beneath the weight of delay, trusting in God's timing becomes more than obedience, it becomes healing. The frustration of waiting exposes a longing for resolution, but God's whisper today is clear. Restoration doesn't arrive at the finish line. It begins in the quiet strength of endurance. Do not fear, for I am with you is not only Isaiah 41:10's comfort, it is the gentle remedy your spirit longs for. God's delay is never indifference. It is an invitation to expand your capacity to receive more than you dared imagine. Christian meditation, whether whispered before sleep or breathed in the stillness of morning, helps you release the pressure to chase outcomes and rest instead in divine presence. The more you yield to God's tempo, the more your soul mends. Trusting his timing is not passive waiting, it is active surrender, where healing flows from letting go. By the quiet waters of Psalm 23, the shepherd invites you to rest, not to rush. You are not meant to live under the tyranny of hurry. As Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us, unseen roots grow deep before any tree bears fruit. That same truth is yours. Your character is forming beneath the surface. Your silent prayers are shaping a future you cannot yet see. Jesus, help me trust your timing when I see nothing, becomes not just an anxiety prayer, but a soul declaration. With each slow breath, you begin to believe again. Psalm 91 reminds you that under his wings you find shelter, and that shelter heals. You are not abandoned in the waiting, you are being restored within it. In a world that pushes for results, your soul finds freedom in spiritual stillness. Trust becomes the treatment for every wound impatience tried to reopen. Even when your eyes can't perceive movement, heaven is orchestrating every detail of your story with precision. Romans 8:28 reassures you that even the most painful delays are included in his plan for good. Lisa Bevere's insight reminds us that fruit comes in season, not by force. The Lord's delay is not a denial, it is divine incubation. Meditation liberates you from needing immediate results, helping your soul rest in a plan far wiser than your own. Trust in God's timing reconciles the inner war between your desire to control and your hunger for peace. His sovereignty offers a deeper therapy than any outcome ever could. Healing is not the absence of pain, it is God's presence within it. What you surrender today becomes the soil of tomorrow's miracle. The breakthrough you long for is already forming in this holy pause. Matthew 11:28 beckons you to lay your burdens down and walk in rhythm with Christ. The yoke he offers is not heavy, it's healing. Pope Leo XIV said, "Delay is not dismissal, but the holy space where perfection is formed." You don't need to rush the threadwork of your life. God is weaving something eternal. Your relationship with time itself transforms. You no longer live by the ticking clock, but by the pulse of eternity. Philippians 4:6-7 teaches that thankful prayer reshapes anxiety into peace. Your mornings become less about performance and more about communion. God isn't asking for a perfect timeline. He's asking for surrendered trust. This is where wholeness begins. Where have you resisted God's timing, and how might that resistance have wounded your faith? How has waiting stretched your trust into deeper dependence? What small moment today can you devote to meditating on His perfect schedule? I will rest beside quiet waters, trusting the shepherd's gentle pace. All things, even delays, are working together for my good. Under His wings, I find both refuge and renewal in His faithful delay. God, your timing is perfect. Today I trust you completely, even in the silence. Let my surrender become someone else's reminder that healing begins in waiting. Just because you don't see a rescue in the headlines doesn't mean you aren't being lifted in the secret places. Today's prayer meets you in the inner work, the holy refining that happens beneath the noise. When life feels heavy with unseen burdens, your soul may carry grief too deep for words. In these moments, it isn't weakness to pause, it's wisdom to lean into God's shelter. Psalm 91 reminds us that the Most High is our refuge, and Matthew 11 beckons the weary to find rest in His yoke. This prayer is for those who feel overlooked, for the one whose tears fall in the dark, for the heart that aches with unanswered cries, for the soul who wonders if God hears their silent groans. Divine power moves in these hidden chambers where each sigh is recorded and each tear is held. As you meditate, visualize His feathers wrapping you in safety, His wings a covering over your wounded spirit. Let this sacred pause recalibrate your heart from desperation to serene trust. In this quiet place, we lift a gentle intercession for all innocent victims of conflict, fear, and loss. Lord, we bring before you every soul suffering in silence. Cover them with mercy, bind up the brokenhearted, and breathe peace where hatred has stolen light. You are the God of healing, not sides. In the stillness of this prayer, let your presence bring restoration to every wounded heart. Replace despair with your nearness, replace fear with your embrace, and rebuild what destruction has torn down. This prayer is not political, it is pastoral, a plea for divine mercy and holy justice. Comfort the sorrowful, draw near to the forgotten, and remind each soul that they are not alone. You are present even in the places no one sees. Amen. As you continue in this morning prayer, let the transformation that trust ignites begin to take root. Waiting seasons are not empty pauses. They are sacred spaces where God crafts resilience. As Dr. Anita Phillips teaches, deep growth happens beneath the surface, much like roots strengthening before a tree bears fruit. In the stillness, faith is purified. Each breath prayer, God, I trust your unfolding, draws you closer to divine intimacy. Meditation is not an escape from reality, it is an entrance into heaven's rhythm. Let anxiety be released with every exhale, and let peace be received with every inhale. As your soul settles into God's timing, trust becomes less about results and more about relationship. Under His wings, you discover that the God who seems silent is preparing a breakthrough that will speak volumes in due time. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that God's delays are not dismissals, but designs. Your rawness in waiting is forming the very foundations needed for the victories to come. Romans 8:28 affirms that even the fragments of your patience are woven into the larger tapestry of His redemptive plan. In this sacred stillness, the Holy Spirit illuminates gifts buried deep beneath your trials. The valley you walk is God's workshop. Chains break, wounds heal, and new strength rises. Trust that the same power that raised Christ from the dead is breathing life into your waiting. Let the prayers of the weary, "Lord, I feel forgotten, help me trust you, strengthen me," become your song of surrender. Each whispered plea is heard. Each moment of silence is sacred. As your spirit yields, your pace begins to match heaven's heartbeat. Let prayer reshape your posture. Less striving, more surrender. Less urgency, more abiding. Less fear, more faith. In the stillness of God's presence, you'll find your true rhythm. Rest in that rhythm now, knowing that even when you cannot see the work, the breakthrough is already taking shape. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are being carried by grace into a future only trust can access. Which hidden wounds need God's gentle healing today? How can you integrate moments of meditation into your daily rhythm to cultivate unshakable trust? In what ways has God prepared you in the silence for a breakthrough? Exercising in silence becomes a practice of service. Under His wings, I find refuge and rest in His faithful care. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength and mount up with wings. The Lord restores my soul and leads me in paths of peace. Comment below with one truth you're embracing in this waiting season. I trust God's preparation, even in delay. And let your faith strengthen another heart still learning to wait. When breath feels like your last resort, know that every inhale is infused with God's presence, and every exhale releases burdens too heavy to carry alone. As Psalm 23:2 whispers, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. This breath becomes the bridge between your frantic striving and restful surrender. Each inhale becomes a prayer of trust. Each exhale a release of anxiety. Spiritual breath work isn't a modern trend. It is the ancient rhythm by which your soul aligns with the steady heartbeat of heaven. In this sacred pause, sleepless nights soften into peace, and the chaos within begins to still. Meditation becomes more than quiet. It becomes communion. With every breath, God draws near. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that transformation often begins with one small breath held in sacred expectancy. As Isaiah 41:10 promises, "Do not fear, for I am with you." God's nearness becomes your atmosphere. Paraphrased wisdom from Lisa Bevere teaches that when we meditate on God's faithfulness, we descend into His sanctuary anxiety cannot breach. Meditation is not about emptying your mind, but filling it with divine love. In a world obsessed with motion and achievement, you get to choose presence, aligning with God's eternal pace. This is where peace lives. When your spirit agrees with heaven's rhythm, divine power flows quietly through each moment. And it is in these hidden, unhurried spaces where spiritual healing truly begins. Let this sacred breath become the way you respond to Jesus' invitation. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. As you inhale, gather every hidden burden, every lingering fear, every unanswered prayer. As you exhale, surrender them into the arms of the one who bore it all for you. Romans 8:28 reminds you that even your smallest breath, prayer is woven into His perfect design. Paraphrased from T.D. Jakes, spiritual nourishment falls like manna, quiet, daily, moment by moment. Let your meditation meet you in the mundane and transform it into holy space. Picture yourself wrapped in the wings of Psalm 91, sheltered beneath divine protection. Envision the still waters of Psalm 23 washing over your anxious mind, renewing and resetting your soul. This is where God meets you, in the simplicity of breath and trust. Choose a quiet place now, sit in stillness, inhale for 4 counts, drawing in hope, hold for 2, exhale for 6, releasing fear. Let your lips softly speak. Jesus, help me trust your timing, or God, your peace rules my heart. Let the rhythm of your breathing become the liturgy of your surrender. In this holy pause, you are not escaping reality. You are anchoring your heart to the greater reality of God's faithfulness. This meditation is more than a moment. It is a posture. It becomes your anchor in the waves, your compass in the fog, your shelter in the storm. Today, let the breath of God restore you from the inside out. Which anxieties surface as you slow your breath before Him? How does inhaling His promises shift your inner dialogue? What phrase will you carry throughout your day to keep your soul aligned in peace? I breathe in God's presence. I exhale my worry. The peace of God guards my heart as I meditate on His love. His yoke is easy and His burden is light. As I rest in His rhythm, take a moment now for 2 minutes of sacred breath. Share your chosen phrase, Jesus, I trust your timing, and offer your peace to someone who needs to breathe with you today. There is a sacred invitation in this morning prayer to step out of the endless race of performance and into the holy rest of presence. From the moment you wake, when sleepless nights have rehearsed the same anxious scenes in your mind, there is a whisper of God's message today. You are not defined by what you do, but by whose you are. Psalm 91 does not promise applause, it promises refuge. Psalm 23 does not command you to achieve, it leads you beside still waters. In the hum of your daily prayer, performance can become a prison, where anxiety echoes against the walls. But divine power often moves quietly in hidden preparation, asking only that you stop striving and simply abide. In Christian meditation for sleep, we learn that rest is not earned, it is embraced. Just because you don't see progress doesn't mean God isn't moving. Trust becomes less about producing and more about surrendering to His peace. Pause the rush and sink into the sanctuary of His presence, where trust begins, not in what you see, but in who He is. Under the surface of your striving, there is a deeper work unfolding. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that transformation happens in the silent chambers of the heart, where pressure yields to patience and fear gives way to faith. Paraphrased insight from Lisa Bevere teaches us that strength is not perfected in the spotlight, but in the solitude of surrender. T.D. Jakes reminds us that when energy feels spent, it's often the moment before grace floods in. What feels like a pause may be heaven's secret pulse, aligning every unseen detail. Isaiah 40:31 promises strength, not before the weight but through it, renewal forged in silence, not speed. This is not a call to laziness, but a call to presence. Let meditation become your sacred breathing space, where striving quiets and trust awakens. Let go of the checklist of achievements and replace it with a simple question: am I resting in God's love right now? Even delay becomes divine when viewed through the lens of love. Let this prayer still your restless heart. Begin with a breath prayer. Inhale, God says I am loved. Exhale, I release my need to prove. Meditation here is not about emptying, but about filling your soul with promise. Psalm 23's "He restores my soul" becomes your morning melody. Your weariness is not weakness. It's a sign you've carried too much. So let go. Let the shepherd lead you to still water. Let rest be the foundation, not the reward. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." This is no metaphor. It is a divine promise. In your quiet, His voice grows clearer. In your stillness, His timing resets your pace. Each breath you take is a step deeper into His rhythm, a rhythm that doesn't rush, but restores. Trust that unseen doesn't mean untrue. The breakthrough you wait for is born in a morning like this, where faith grows quietly and strength returns breath by breath. Echoing Pope Leo XIV, remember that the Lord delays not to forget you, but to prepare what only delay can deliver. Your attempts to perform may have built walls, his pauses carve doors of mercy. You don't have to prove, perform, or push today. Dwell, don't sprint. Choose presence over pressure. Choose rest over results. In the Most High's shadow, even the pause becomes purpose. Let your life reflect a rhythm not of hurry, but of holiness. When anxiety stirs, return to your breath, prayer. When distractions press in, return to Psalm 91's promise. You are not abandoned. You are being shaped, prepared, loved. In this sacred pause, you become a living morning prayer. Proof that God's message is not about what you do, but who He is and who He's making you to be. Where have you felt pressure to perform instead of simply abide in God's love? How can you weave a 2-minute breath prayer or meditation into your morning rhythm? In what ways might God be working beneath the surface of your striving? I rest under His wings, not under my own striving. He restores my soul when I release my need to prove myself. My strength comes in quiet surrender, not in endless performance. God, I trust you, even in the delay. Let that be your declaration today, and someone else's morning prayer. Just because the world moves at breakneck speed doesn't mean God's timing is flawed. The lie of hurry whispers that if you don't force the moment, nothing will ever change. But the sovereign who holds the cosmos moves in divine rhythms, not deadlines. Psalm 23 doesn't rush you to green pastures. It leads you gently beside still waters. When anxiety prayers become frantic pleas rather than faithful trust, you step out of God's peace and into your own performance. Meditation is your radical refusal to live by the clock. It is the sacred act of pausing long enough to hear God's message beneath the noise. Be still and know that I am God. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that roots grow slow so the tree can stand strong. T.D. Jakes says rushing often makes you miss the miracle meant for its appointed season. To slow down is not weakness, it is trust in divine timing. In the race of deadlines and pressure, your soul often echoes fear. What if I'm too late? Or, if I don't hurry, I'll miss it. These voices are not from the Spirit. They come from a frantic heart. Isaiah 41:10 tells you not to fear, for God is with you. Trusting His timing is not passivity, it is discernment. It's the wisdom to recognize the difference between faithful movement and fearful striving. Lisa Bevere's insights echo here. Every breath of delay contains holy design. The same breath prayers that calm your midnight anxiety also anchor your day. Inhale His promises, exhale your hurry. In Christian meditation, you trade racing plans for worshipful presence. What the world calls stagnation may actually be the sacred space where God is planting something that only stillness can grow. Jesus Himself never sprinted. He didn't rush through healing or preaching. He walked, He withdrew, He lingered. In Matthew 11:28-30, He says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." His rhythm wasn't one of exhaustion but restoration. Even Psalm 91, often seen as refuge from danger, is also a sanctuary for the hurried soul. Under His wings you find shelter that no ticking clock can breach. Pope Leo XIV once paraphrased that hurry is the enemy of the soul, and only in holy slowness does God's voice become clear. Let each moment of stillness be your rebellion against a culture that values speed over depth. Let sacred slowness realign your life with heaven's tempo. In those pauses, your soul is reawakened to a deeper faith and a steadier hope. Let this prayer be your permission to slow down. Before your feet hit the ground, take 2 minutes to simply be with God. Inhale slowly. Your timing is perfect, Lord. Exhale gently. I let go of my hurry. As your nervous system recalibrates and your spirit settles, trust that God is orchestrating details you cannot see. Romans 8:28 affirms it all works for good. Even delays, even detours. So don't rush today. Don't chase what hasn't been released. Let peace lead. Let trust breathe. The power of your prayer is not in how loud or long it is, but in the stillness it creates. That's where God moves. That's where you'll find Him. Waiting, working, redeeming in divine time. What areas of your life are you forcing instead of faithfully waiting? How can you integrate a 2-minute breath prayer or Psalm 91 pause into your morning? In what ways might God's preparation in delay be richer than any hurried breakthrough? I will not rush ahead. I rest under the shadow of the Almighty. He leads me at His pace. There is no need for fear or hurry. In quiet trust, I find strength. In stillness, I discover power. God, I trust You, even in the delay. Let Your words today become the peace someone else was praying to find. There's a whisper in your waiting, a quiet assurance that speaks more truth than the loudest breakthrough. God is not slow to answer. He is deliberate in His design. When prayers feel suspended in silence and hope stretches thin, remember this sacred truth. Divine delay is never divine denial. It is God's holy workshop where faith is forged, character is cultivated, and the soul is readied for what only perfect timing can deliver. Psalm 27:14 gently commands, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." This is not mere advice, it's an invitation into the kind of inner strength that grows best in the soil of surrender. As you enter meditation, allow your breath to turn frustration into faith, fear into expectancy, and exhaustion into sacred endurance. Psalm 91 reminds you that you dwell under the shadow of the Almighty, not in passive hiding, but in an active training ground. In that secret place, divine power works quietly, healing what hustle never could. Envision God's wings wrapped around you so completely that no anxious thought can pierce the shelter. In that stillness, as Dr. Anita Phillips explains, your soul is coaxed into restoration long before your circumstances shift. Each breath becomes a declaration. Lord, I believe You are preparing something greater than I can imagine. Isaiah 64:4 affirms that God does marvelous things beyond our knowing, things that require time, layers, and alignment. Rushing only disrupts that holy orchestration. As T.D. Jakes reminds us, God's pauses are not rejections, but loving intervals where power gathers quietly, like clouds before rain. Pope Leo XIII once paraphrased that sacred treasures are formed in the deep mines of delay. Look at Joseph, from pit to palace, or Elijah, who learned to hear God not in fire or wind, but in a still, small voice. Consider Jesus, whose tomb held divine silence before resurrection dawn. These stories aren't distant miracles, they are blueprints. Every divine turnaround begins not in public applause, but in private preparation. Meditation isn't optional during these seasons. It's essential. It is the still chamber where you trade your anxiety for alignment. It is where your roots deepen, where your soul relearns trust. And when practiced faithfully, it transforms waiting from punishment into preparation. So take a moment, step away from your schedule, inhale deeply. God, in this pause, prepare my heart for what only You can do. Exhale slowly, letting go of timelines and tight-fisted plans. Let your breath become prayer. Let your stillness become your yes to heaven's pace. Psalm 23:3 promises that He restores your soul and leads you in paths of righteousness. Trust that the path is forming even now, one breath, one surrender at a time. Philippians 1:6 assures us that He who began this good work in you will be faithful to complete it, not in your timing, but in His perfect one. When impatience rises, anchor your soul with this truth. God delays not to punish, but to prepare. His silence is not absence, it's the sound of a miracle being aligned. In what areas are you most tempted to see delay as punishment rather than preparation? How can you create a sacred pause, 2 minutes of prayerful meditation, when impatience arises? What past experience can you recall where God's delay led to a richer, more enduring breakthrough? I dwell securely under His wings, even in the season of waiting. I am being prepared in the secret place for what only delay can deliver. God's timing is perfect. His delays refine my faith and my character. God, I trust you, even in the delay. Share below one way you will embrace divine preparation today. Your quiet commitment may be the invitation someone else needs to breathe again. If you can, express the same love you now practice. Beneath every moment of waiting lies a sanctuary prepared just for you, the shelter of Psalm 91. Imagine drawing into a secret chamber where every rushing thought is stilled by the promise, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." In this place, divine power unfolds not in spectacle, but in quiet sovereignty, shielding your mind from the fever of fear and the sting of doubt. As you enter this refuge through meditation, you discover that waiting is not an empty expanse, but a sacred corridor leading deeper into God's presence. Each breath, prayer, "Lord, under your wings I find peace," becomes a stepping stone into His protective shade, where the sun of anxiety cannot scorch your soul. When life's pace feels relentless, remember that this hidden fortress is always available, and your simple act of pausing to breathe becomes a bold declaration of trust in the one who holds time itself. The shelter of Psalm 91 is more than poetic comfort. It is a fortress of spiritual reality. When anxiety tries to pound at your heart, remember that God commands His angels to guard you in all your ways, unseen sentinels standing vigilant at the boundaries of your waiting. These heavenly guardians repel whispers of defeat and remind you that delay does not equal denial. Meditation on this truth transforms the anxious pause into a holy vigil, where every moment of stillness becomes an act of faith. You don't rush to the breakthrough, you rest in the assurance that God's omnipotent hand hovers over your season, weaving together every hidden detail for your good. In the hush of your soul, you begin to sense the power of divine timing and the blessing of being prepared rather than hurried. God's presence doesn't just calm your fears. It cultivates trust, softens your timeline, and deepens your awareness that divine power works best in the quiet. Divine power often works in the hidden itinerary of your heart, rewriting timelines and reshaping your character long before visible change appears. In the shelter of Psalm 91, you learn that protection and preparation are inseparable. As God guards you, He also refines you. Dr. Anita Phillips suggests that spiritual resilience is forged in the fires of waiting, and here those fires are tempered by mercy and grace. When impatience threatens to break your peace, return to the prayerful meditation. Inhale, "I dwell under your mighty shadow." Exhale, "I trust your hidden preparation." This practice doesn't erase the wall before you, but it builds an inner fortress of trust that no delay can dismantle. Reflect on the ways God has already carried you through past seasons of unknown length, and let that remembrance fuel your faith today. Commit to seeking this shelter in your daily rhythm. Each breath a reminder that you are held, each moment of stillness a witness to His faithful love. As you abide here, the waiting becomes holy ground, where God's power is both shield and source of transformation. And the breakthrough you seek is already underway, first within, then without. True spiritual awakening is not about mustering more willpower or checking off religious boxes. It begins the moment you surrender control to the one who holds your world. The frantic need to grasp certainty only feeds anxiety, but surrender invites divine power to move freely within. Each breath prayer, God, I release control and receive your perfect plan, becomes a small but mighty declaration of faith. As you meditate on Proverbs 3:5-6, your anxious thoughts of "I must fix this" soften into trust that God is already working behind the scenes. The holy pause is where striving ceases and soul-deep peace begins. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that transformation happens not in the spotlight of performance, but in the hidden chambers of surrender, where fear bows to faith and self-reliance gives way to divine sovereignty. The shepherd of Psalm 23 leads you beside still waters not because he is still, but because he knows that rest restores what effort cannot. Surrender is not passive resignation, it is active dependence. It's the boldness to ask, is this mine to carry or mine to release? And the courage to let go when the answer is release. In Matthew chapter 11, verse 28-30, Jesus invites the weary to take his yoke, learn from his gentle heart, and find true rest. This spiritual rest is not the absence of activity, but the presence of alignment, walking at God's pace instead of your own. When impatience or fear rises, return to your sacred breath prayer. Inhale, I dwell under your mighty shadow. Exhale, I trust your hidden preparation. That pause reorients your inner world, where trust becomes your posture and peace becomes your compass. T.D. Jakes notes that when we finally drop the weight of self-reliance, divine power moves through our weakness and makes it the starting point for miracles. In the silence of your soul, you begin to sense the power of divine timing, where delay is not denial, but design. Every divine turnaround begins not in spectacle, but in the sacred surrender of the unseen heart. Reflect on the protective shelter of Psalm 91, not just a poetic image, but a spiritual fortress, where your soul is guarded, refined, and readied. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that the soul most constrained by human frailty becomes most liberated by heavenly grace when we choose to loosen our grip. As you lean not on your own understanding, but on God's, spiritual awakening begins, not as a loud arrival, but as a quiet shift from self-driven striving to spirit-led abiding. That is where transformation takes root, deep, slow, and unstoppable. Let this morning be your holy turning point. Carve out 2 minutes before the demands of the day press in. Inhale, your timing is perfect, Lord. Exhale, I let go of my hurry. Let every breath disarm your inner pressure to control and instead cultivate inner peace that rests in God's wisdom. Reflect on one area of your life where surrender feels hard, perhaps a relationship, a dream, or a personal timeline, and choose to place it into divine hands today. Trust that what feels like silence is sacred preparation. God's message isn't asking for more from you. It's inviting you to receive more of Him. In that receiving, you find a strength that striving could never offer, and a peace that performance could never produce. This is the beginning of awakening, the stillness where surrender births spiritual power. When the dark stretches long and your mind races with what-ifs, turn your nightly unrest into a sacred vigil of prayer. Sleepless anxiety is not a punishment, but an invitation to draw near to God's calming presence. As you lie awake, whisper the promise of Psalm 91:4. Under His wings I find refuge, and feel the shelter of His steadfast love enveloping your restless thoughts. Resolve envelops us in love, enveloping your restless thoughts. In these quiet hours, divine power moves through the gentle practice of daily prayer, transforming your fear into faith and your tension into trust. Meditation becomes your anchor. Breathe in God's peace for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale your worries for 6. With each cycle, you learn that God's message today speaks louder than your anxieties. I am with you even in the night watch. Jesus modeled this refuge in Mark 1:35, rising early to pray in solitary communion. In those pre-dawn moments, He aligned His heart with the Father's. So can you. Your sleepless hours become holy ground, when you turn them into worship rather than worry. Your subconscious rehearses what you feed it. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us, so feed it prayers of surrender, not loops of dread. Replace every anxious repetition with a breath prayer. Inhale, God, I rest in your timing. Exhale, I release my fear. As you meditate on Psalm 23, He restores my soul. Feel your spirit settle beside still waters, prepared long before the sunrise. The world is silent, but your soul is speaking. Lord, strengthen me while I wait for your answer. In these moments, walls of inner turmoil begin to dissolve under the weight of God's compassion. Philippians 4:6-7 promises that prayer invites peace to guard your heart and mind. Paraphrasing Pope Leo XIV, let the night be your sanctuary, not your courtroom. You are not judged by your restlessness. You are invited into a deeper rest, the kind only God can give. This daily prayer is more than a ritual. It is a lifeline to divine rest. Each breath becomes a quiet rebellion against fear. Each pause, a moment of recalibration. Reflect on the fears that rise in the night. What do they reveal about your trust? What promise can you hold instead? Meditation doesn't erase the unknown, but it reminds you of what is known, that you are held, protected, and never alone. You don't need to solve everything before dawn. You only need to abide in the one who governs the dawn. Inhale peace. Exhale striving. Let His presence hold you through the night until your soul remembers, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. The breakthrough you need may not come before morning, but the peace you need is already here. Beneath every moment of waiting lies a sanctuary prepared just for you, the shelter of Psalm 91. Imagine drawing into a secret chamber, where every rushing thought is stilled by the promise, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. In this hidden refuge, divine power unfolds not in spectacle, but in quiet sovereignty, shielding your mind from the fever of fear and the sting of doubt. Each breath prayer. Breathe in God's peace for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale your worries for 6. Becomes a stepping stone into His protective shade, where the sun of anxiety cannot scorch your soul. When sleepless hours stretch long and what-ifs crowd your mind, whisper, under your wings I find refuge, and feel His steadfast love envelop you. Jesus modeled this early morning communion, rising in the dark to pray, and in that solitary vigil He aligned His heart with the Father's. So can you, turning anxious vigil into worshipful watch. In these quiet hours, your soul begins to feel the first rays of a breakthrough that begins not outside, but within. True spiritual awakening begins with letting go of control and embracing the one who holds your world. The frantic grasp for certainty only fuels anxiety, but the holy act of surrender invites divine power to move freely within you. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not on our own understanding, transforming every "I must fix this" into "I trust your perfect plan." Surrender is a daily posture. Inhale, God, I release my need to prove. Exhale, I receive your peace. As you meditate on Psalm 23's promise, He restores my soul. Know that the shepherd leads you beside still waters, not because he is idle, but because rest fuels resilience. Divine delay is never divine denial, but a sacred pause where your soul is refined in the hidden workshop of God's love. In these secret moments, divine power works quietly, replacing performance with presence, panic with peace, and fear with faith. Each breath becomes a bold declaration that God's timing is not late, but lovingly precise. From heaven's vantage, your waiting season is not a void, but a vital chapter in a story of redemption and breakthrough. Psalm 139 reminds us that God's eyes are always on you, searching every moment of your life. even those filled with silence. In the hidden chamber of his presence, you are being shaped for a glory that cannot be rushed. Consider the whispered wisdom of Pope Leo XIV's paraphrased. He sees the unseen work in your soul before the world ever celebrates your breakthrough. Take 2 minutes each morning to close your eyes. Visualize God's panoramic view of your life and breathe in his eternal perspective. Inhale, my life is in your hands. Exhale, your timing transcends my understanding. As you meditate on Romans 8:28, that all things, including delays, work together for good, you begin to see your waiting not as friction, but as fellowship with heaven's purpose. Release your need to rush God's unfolding narrative. Instead, trust that he who holds tomorrow's details also tenderly cares for your today. God longs over you with his everlasting love, seeing every hidden struggle. Your waiting is woven into eternity's tapestry, and under his wings you find both refuge and revelation. Tonight, share one way you'll practice heaven's perspective. Perhaps visualizing God's view during a brief meditation, or speaking Romans 8:28 over your wait, and inspire someone else to trust in the unseen work of divine timing. Beneath every moment of waiting lies a sanctuary prepared just for you, a shelter where divine power flows like an underground river beneath the chaos of your mind. Picture yourself stepping away from deadlines and anxious thoughts that loop through sleepless nights, and imagine dipping beneath the noise into a cool, steady current carved by God's Spirit. Psalm 23 invites you beside those still waters, not as a reward for performance, but as grace for the weary heart, while Psalm 91 promises refuge under the shadow of the Almighty's wings. Each breath prayer: inhale, Jesus, carry me beneath my chaos. Exhale, I trust your hidden grace, becomes a bridge from surface panic to subterranean peace. In these private chambers, where your conscious striving cannot reach, divine power works imperceptibly to refine your character and deepen your trust in God's timing, reminding you that true rest begins when you deliberately enter the current of his presence. Paraphrase from T.D. Jakes: your frantic striving may stir the surface, but it's the deep current of God's power that carves your path forward. True spiritual awakening begins the moment you surrender control to the one who holds your world, exchanging frantic striving for courageous faith. The lie of hurry whispers that if you don't force the moment, nothing will ever change. Yet the sovereign who arranged the stars moves by divine rhythm, not deadlines. Proverbs 3:5-6 calls you to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, reshaping every "I must fix this" into "I release my need to prove." In the hush of your morning prayer, practice inhaling "God, I release control," and exhaling "I receive your perfect plan," building an inner fortress of trust no delay can dismantle. As Dr. Anita Phillips teaches, inner transformation unfolds in the underground chambers of surrender, and Lisa Bevere reminds us that God's greatest breakthroughs emerge from unseen preparation. Let Jesus' invitation in Matthew 11:28-30 guide you. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. Stop paddling upstream and allow his strength to carry you. In the hush beneath chaos, heaven's river delivers what noise cannot distract. As you rise into this day, carry the vision of heaven's vantage point over your waiting and the river of God's hidden power beneath your chaos. Reflect on the mental noise that clogs your heart and consider diving beneath it in meditation. How might a brief river meditation, visualizing still waters under turbulence, shift your anxiety into trust? What areas are you most tempted to control, and how can surrender bring you into greater peace in trouble? Commit to carving out 2 minutes each morning for contemplative meditation. Inhale, my life is in your hands. Exhale, your timing transcends my understanding. And let Romans 8:28 remind you that all things, including unseen currents, work together for your good. Under his wings, find rest in the river of his hidden power. Beside still waters, learn that protection and preparation are inseparable. Share today how this practice shifts your perspective and inspires someone else to trust in the unseen work of divine timing flowing just beneath their storm. There are seasons when even God's still, small voice seems distant, and the silence of your waiting feels unbearably empty. In those moments, it's tempting to believe that divine power has paused, or worse, that you've been forgotten. Yet God's message today assures you that silence is not absence, but sacred soil, where unseen roots of faith are growing deep. Imagine stepping into a hidden chamber of your own heart, where every anxious question softens into a holy pause. Psalm 23 reminds you that He leads you beside still waters and restores your soul even when your heart feels hollow. Each breath, prayer. Inhale, under your wings, I am never alone. Exhale, I release my fear of your silence. Anchors your mind in divine presence and transforms the void into fertile ground for grace. Paraphrased wisdom from Dr. Anita Phillips teaches that inner healing often unfolds in the quiet, where the clamor of human acclaim cannot reach, and where God's gentle crafting of breakthroughs quietly begins. In this holy pause, Christian meditation becomes your ally during waking hours as well as in the night watch. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and speak softly, Jesus, meet me in this silence. With each inhale, draw in the sheltering promise of Psalm 91, and with each exhale, release the lie that God isn't with you. Lisa Bevere encourages you to trust that God's seeming quiet is not abandonment, but the soundproofed workshop of transformation. Pope Leo XII reminds us that God hides His hands in stillness, so the work can be fully His. When the silence feels empty, surrender your longing in morning prayer and invite His presence to fill every void. Let the hush become a sanctuary rather than a sentence, and watch how the unseen current of His peace begins to flow beneath the noise of your doubts. In those quiet places, divine power is not absent, it is present and at work, molding you in ways only eternity will reveal. As you begin your day, reflect on the moments when silence has felt like abandonment and consider how God may have been shaping you in those hidden seasons. What breath prayer will ground you when the quiet grows heavy? Perhaps simply, under your wings I find my refuge even in the quiet. Commit to 2 minutes of sacred stillness each morning, before the rush of to-dos, before the pull of distractions, and use that time to center your soul on His steady presence. As you meditate on Scripture, though I walk through silence, God's presence restores my soul. Under His wings I rest, even when my heart feels empty. In silent waiting, I trust that all things work together for my good. Let these truths saturate the silence. Share one breath prayer or verse you'll hold to when hope thins, and through your words invite someone else to find refuge in God's unspoken presence today. Each morning rises with its own set of uncertainties, unseen challenges, shifting plans, swirling anxieties, but you hold a higher decree, divine peace that transcends all fear. Before the world demands your attention, speak heaven's authority over your thoughts and time by declaring, Lord, let no dread penetrate my mind. Under your feathers I claim refuge. Let the shepherding promise of Psalm 23 flow through your soul. Guide my steps beside still waters, and restore me even amid chaos. In this sacred proclamation, daily prayer becomes more than asking, it becomes a declaration of identity and authority. As you meditate on Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. Allow a holy calm to anchor your spirit. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that spoken faith rewires anxious neural loops into pathways of peace, and when you name God's peace at dawn, your entire day is governed not by turmoil, but by the presence of the One who goes before you. Use this breath prayer to begin. Inhale, your peace reigns in me. Exhale, my worry has no claim. 3 cycles are enough to realign your heart. Paraphrased insight from Lisa Vivere reveals that when we speak God's promises, we come into alignment with His power, drawing strength far beyond what we can summon on our own. Whether you're tending to sleepless baby cries, tackling overwhelming to-do lists, or trying to calm middle-of-the-night anxiety, let this spoken peace saturate each moment. Suffering. Christian meditation isn't just for rest, it's for readiness. Fuel for your spirit in the face of daily pressure. Speak aloud, "Today I walk enveloped in your peace, guided by your divine power and trusting in your perfect timing." When you anchor your morning in this truth, you shift from reaction to response, from striving to surrender, from chaos to calm. Consider which anxieties need to be exchanged for peace today. What would it look like to speak a 3-cycle breath prayer as part of your daily rhythm? How might declaring God's promises alter the way you respond to disruptions and delays? Reflect on these truths as sacred anchors. Under His wings I find refuge. His peace shields my mind. He guides me beside still waters and restores my soul for today's journey. And do not fear, for He is with me. His strength upholds me now. Let these affirmations be more than whispers. Make them declarations over your space, your body, your schedule. Choose one phrase, perhaps "Your peace reigns in me," to declare aloud each morning and share it as a beacon for others. Your spoken faith becomes a ripple of divine calm, calling others into the sanctuary of God's presence, one declaration at a time. Too often we wait for our confidence to rise before stepping out, as if our own courage unlocks God's blessing. Yet every journey of faith begins not with our readiness, but with God's initiative. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us, "A person's heart plans their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." In this morning prayer, shift your gaze from your own hesitation to the one who already paved the way. God has taken the first step toward you, preparing the path you cannot yet see. Your role is not to forge the trail alone, but to trust the one who goes before you. Jesus revealed this divine first rhythm in John 5, when He called the paralyzed man to rise. The man didn't find strength first. He obeyed the word, and strength followed. Dr. Anita Phillips teaches that true empowerment begins in obedience, not self-reliance, and Lisa Bevere affirms that momentum flows not from willpower, but from God's movement. Let the invitation of Matthew 11:28, "Come to me," reframe your striving as surrender. Begin your 2-minute reflection by closing your eyes and breathing slowly. Inhale. You've already stepped toward me. Exhale. I will follow without fear. Picture a narrow path ahead, softly lit by God's presence, each step already marked by grace. Isaiah 41:10 pulses beneath your pace. I am with you. Today's emails, conversations, parenting moments, and unknowns all unfold within this greater truth. Your first step is not your own. It's a response to His. God's presence leads the way and holds your footing, even when you feel uncertain. Let go of the myth that you must feel brave to move forward. Instead, let your morning meditation rest in the assurance that God's direction precedes your decision. This is the essence of Christian meditation. Awakening not through effort, but through alignment with divine rhythm and trust in the one who moves first. Ask yourself, where have I been waiting for confidence instead of stepping forward in faith? How can I begin each day with a quiet meditation on God's first move? What fear fades when I trust that the Lord has already gone ahead of me? Speak these affirmations aloud. The Lord has gone before me, my steps are secure in His hands. I rise at His invitation and strength follows my obedience. He leads me with unwavering presence. I need only follow His voice. Choose one area where you've hesitated to move and offer this declaration aloud. I follow your first step, Lord. Let your words become your worship. your faith become your motion, and your motion become a quiet testimony to someone else who is learning to trust the timing and tenderness of God's lead. There is profound freedom when you realize you do not have to bear every burden alone. Divine power extends not only to what you can carry, but to what you cannot. God's message today gently invites you to stop striving, to exhale the fear of failing, and to receive His compassionate embrace. Psalm 23:4 assures you, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me," reminding you that the shepherd carries you when your strength runs out. In the stillness of Christian meditation, inhale, "God, hold me." Exhale, "I release my burdens," and allow His nearness to wrap around your weary soul. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that true strength is not in the effort to stand, but in the willingness to be caught. Lisa Bevere offers the wisdom that receiving help is a sacred act of humility, not failure. And paraphrased from Pope Leo XIV, "The soul that permits itself to be held by heaven finds wings to soar beyond its fears." When you rest in His arms, trust becomes not a concept, but a felt reality, solid, quiet, healing. Begin this day not by charging into tasks, but by surrendering your heaviness in the presence of divine support. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing your inner resistance to soften. Whisper silently, "Lord, I don't have to hold it all. You are holding me." Envision yourself safe under His wings, where Psalm 91 assures you of shelter, even when you cannot stand on your own. In that hidden place, anxiety begins to dissolve, not because you fixed it, but because you stopped clinging to it. 2 Corinthians 12:9 and Isaiah 41:10 assure us that His power is made perfect in our weakness, not in our effort to appear strong. As you go about your day, navigating conflict, fatigue, disappointment, return often to that breath prayer, the sacred rhythm of surrender that allows divine strength to take over where your energy ends. In God's arms, even your limits become sacred spaces where grace overflows. Reflect on the burden you've been holding alone. What have you convinced yourself only you can manage? How would your day shift if you simply released it into the care of a loving Father who already holds the outcome? Breathe and let that burden fall into stronger hands. What breath prayer will anchor your soul when anxiety creeps in? Perhaps, "God, hold me," or "Under your wings, I am never alone." Practice 2 minutes of stillness today to rest in divine presence, not as a luxury but as a lifeline. Let these affirmations root deep in your spirit. "Under His wings I find rest when I cannot stand. He carries me through the valley. I need only trust His hold. When I am weak, His power upholds me. His strength is made perfect in my surrender." Share one way you'll give yourself permission to be held today, whether through prayer, stillness, or simply asking for help, and let that moment become a living invitation for someone else to lay down their striving and be held by God. There is a sacred freedom when you release your grip on life's steering wheel and allow divine power to guide your path. Every anxious thought of "what if I fail" or "I must orchestrate every detail" mutes the gentle whisper of God's sovereignty. The shepherd doesn't demand your direction. He leads you beside still waters and restores your soul. Under His wings, you find refuge beyond anything you could construct on your own. Psalm 91 shelters you in a grace you didn't earn, and Psalm 23 reminds you that He leads, not lags behind your plans. In this morning prayer, breathe in trust and exhale control. Dr. Anita Phillips teaches that healing begins when we relinquish the illusion of self-sufficiency and invite God's power to fill our weakness. Lisa Bevere reminds us that divine ideas eclipse human effort. Paraphrased from T.D. Jakes, "When you drop your own blueprint, heaven's architecture unfolds." And from Pope Leo XIV, "Our release of control is the birthplace of divine miracles." As you meditate on Isaiah 41:10, "Do not fear, for He is with you." Feel your clenched heart soften into sacred surrender. Begin today by identifying one plan or pressure you're clutching too tightly. Let your breath become prayer. Inhale, Lord, I let go. Exhale, I trust you to lead. Visualize your plans in God's open hands, not yours. Trust that His path may look unfamiliar, but is flawlessly designed. 2 minutes of this breath prayer can reset the tone of your day. Feel the divine rhythm overtake the frantic tempo of self-reliance, and remember that when you step back, heaven steps forward. His timing doesn't depend on your control. His miracles don't need your micromanaging. This is not surrender into chaos, it's surrender into a higher order, one you were never meant to orchestrate. Trusting God isn't passive, it's powerful. It opens the door to outcomes beyond your imagination, rooted in peace, not pressure. What plan are you clutching that God is gently asking you to place in His hands today? What breath prayer can anchor your soul in moments of grasping? Perhaps I lean not on my understanding, He guides my steps. Where in your life could God's wisdom rewrite your best laid intentions into something far greater? Reflect on these questions and commit to a sacred pause before you press forward. Say aloud, His power is made perfect as I yield my plans to Him and choose rest over racing, trust over tension. Under His wings, even surrender becomes strength. Share one aspect of your day where you will let go of control, whether a decision, a conversation, or your own expectations. And let your act of release inspire someone else to trust in the flawless guidance of God. Rest is not a concession for the weak, but a sacred act of worship that honors the Creator of time. In a world that idolizes output and glorifies hustle, pausing can feel countercultural, even rebellious. Yet divine power often unfolds most fully in moments of holy stillness. Psalm 23 reminds us that the shepherd makes us lie down in green pastures and leads us beside quiet waters, not because He grows weary, but because He knows our souls do. Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary." And when we receive that invitation, something shifts. Shoulders relax, breath slows, and striving begins to dissolve. True spiritual renewal happens when our frantic labor meets God's unhurried grace, transforming burnout into breakthrough. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that renewal comes not through control, but through sacred stillness. D.D. Jakes paraphrases, "When you cease your labor, you enter heaven's workshop." Lisa Bevere teaches that rest is a gift, not a trophy. And Pope Leo XIV adds, "The most profound revelations come in the hush after our work stops." In these holy pauses, your heart learns to trust that stillness is not stagnation, it is sacred preparation. As you meditate on this truth, begin a breath prayer. Inhale, I receive your rest. Exhale, I release my striving. Inhale, peace. Exhale, pressure. Let this rhythm guide you into a posture of divine dependence. Rest is not earned, it is woven into the sacred rhythm of creation. The seventh day was not an afterthought. It was a declaration that even divine power pauses to bless what has been made. Rest is not idleness, it is intimacy. When you stop performing and start abiding, you make room for the whisper of God to become louder than the roar of the world. Isaiah 40 reminds us that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, not through action, but through surrender. Every breath becomes a testimony. In His rest I find strength. In His stillness, renewal. Which part of your day most needs a sacred pause? How might a 2-minute rest meditation before your next task reframe your entire afternoon? What changes when you view rest not as a break from holiness, but as the very place where holiness meets you? Speak these truths aloud. The Lord gives rest to my soul, He leads me in paths of peace. Come to Jesus and find rest for your weary heart. In His rest, I find strength. In His stillness, renewal. Commit to one sacred pause today. Set a reminder, step away, and surrender. Let your breath become your sanctuary and your stillness your offering. Then share how this brief retreat into God's presence transformed not just your pace, but your entire perspective. As the dawn breaks, pause in gratitude for every step you've taken with the shepherd guiding you through valleys and peaks alike. Instead of replaying yesterday's missteps or tomorrow's uncertainties, reflect on moments when his gentle hand redirected your path, or his quiet whisper steadied your heart. Recognize that even in unseen seasons, he has met your deepest needs. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. This reflection isn't self-criticism, but a celebration of grace, reminding you that every breath of peace you've inhaled testifies to his unending faithfulness. Pause and ask yourself, where have I sensed his quiet hand guiding me? In what moments did his peace outshine my fear? Let these reflections root your soul in trust and thanksgiving. Now receive his promises without resistance. Inhale strength for the challenges ahead. Exhale every residue of doubt. Quietly declare, I receive your strength for today, your wisdom for every choice, and your presence in every step. Let Romans 8:28 settle into your spirit, that all things, including your waiting, are working together for good. In this sacred reception, humility becomes your vessel and grace your fuel. Dr. Anita Phillips reminds us that reception is an active surrender to divine power, not an admission of failure. Lisa Bevere echoes this truth. When we receive God's love without qualification, we become vessels of overflow, courageous, compassionate, and anchored. Let this moment be one of still, holy alignment where you exchange weariness for strength and striving for surrender. Now walk in stillness. Let the quiet you've cultivated travel with you into every room, every task, every conversation. Whether you're facing noise, busyness, or the unknown, keep Psalm 91:1 alive in your soul. I dwell under his shelter. I walk in the shadow of the Almighty. Let your every movement be an extension of the peace you found in prayer. This is not inactivity, but spirit-led motion, unhurried, grounded, whole. Breathe deeply, holding the rhythm. Inhale peace, exhale striving. Let your steps be paced by God's timing, not pressure. As Pope Leo XIV has beautifully paraphrased, stillness in the presence of God is the greatest movement of the soul. And now, as you re-enter the flow of your day, carry this stillness like sacred oil, soothing, strengthening, and guiding each step with divine clarity and peace.